Welcome to Embracing Infinity, exploring the infinite oneness in the space of love and truth. Host Jennifer Rose is an international spiritual medium, healer, channeler, mentor, and transformational guide. Her focus is encouraging individuals to know themselves within the lens of their divine heart and highest potential, to evolve within the frequency of love and peaceful harmony. Now, here's your host, Jennifer Rose.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. I hope you all are well today. Happy Friday and happy weekend to everyone. I'm Jennifer Rose. This is Embracing Infinity, and so happy to be here today with all of you who are joining. I'm so excited to have our special guest, Lima Bergmann, coming on shortly with all of us. She's just the most beautiful soul. And we're going to have a really, really lovely time and discussion today. But I also want to thank you for being here too, and being your beautiful selves. Everyone's starting to come on. There's Miss Melinda and there's Amy coming on. Great to see you, loves. I hope you all are doing well. It is a beautiful day. Jennifer McCormick, hello, hello. There's our girls. They're all here. The angels are in town. And there's Craig. Hi, Craig. Nice to see you. So thank you guys so much for being here today. And I feel truly blessed. I really do. A couple of really quick announcements as we get going. Hello, Miss Fran. A couple of quick announcements as we get going. If you could please, heart the video, subscribe to Sacred Spiral YouTube channel, like all of our pages, if you follow all of our pages, if you get a chance, share our live here today, and let your friends know that we're on here today. Tag, all of that stuff is very helpful. It helps us to keep growing so we can keep serving the community in this most beautiful way. So we're truly, truly grateful for that. Thank you, and thank you. I also want to share a couple of quick announcements for this weekend too. Tomorrow I've got two online events this weekend. Tomorrow, Saturday, is Spirit Talk Ask the Medium, excuse me. And it's just a free Q&A about spiritual topics. It's not for doing readings, but we have a really, really fun time at these events, and people come up with all kinds of fun questions. No Spirit Talk is the same as another one. So it's really fun just to kind of, see what gets asked. But that is a free online event, donation as well if you choose. And then this Sunday, I have my For the Love of Spirit Sunday spiritual service, and that is at 10 a.m. Pacific. So 11 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. UK on Saturday. And on Sunday for Sunday service, it's 10 a.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. UK. We have guest medium Phil Shaw. He's going to be our inspired speaker and our spiritual medium. And we're truly excited and honored to have him on board with all of us with Team Angel. Team Angel also includes Melinda and Fran, who are here today. So that's truly wonderful. Now, both events, if you do choose to make a donation, the donations are going to the duck sanctuary. They've had some large rescues lately. They're in Southern California in the Riverside County area. And they've got about 90 little tiny baby ducks that just hatched that they're taking care of. And so 100% of all of the donations are going to go to the duck sanctuary to help them take care of all of those little duckies. So just wanted to let you know about that as well. And please stay on for this afternoon for Kelly. Please forgive me. My mind just went blank. Are we doing psychic hour or numerology today? Because I just wanted to make sure I let all of our guests know today. And as well, you can see Transcend with Debbie every Wednesday. So I'll wait for that information, and then I'll make sure that you get the correct information. So anyways, thank you for listening to all of those announcements. I truly appreciate you all. And I just want to make sure I haven't missed anybody. Okay, we're doing well. So I'm just going to chat for a few minutes because I'm so excited to have Lima Bergmann on today, and we're going to have the most wonderful time. And what came up this week is just a little gentle reminder from Spirit, because the what I want to say is collective climate right now is a little bit, or maybe a lot, but I like to word things in a gentle, kind way. The climate right now is a little bit okay. There's people are more fearful and worried right now, and the energies are becoming more polarized. Now, this isn't wrong. It's part of the journey. It's part of the story of life. Hi, Jess. Yes, we're having a great day. Good to see you, love. It's part of the story of life. We have the contraction and we have the expansion, and this is the dance of infinity that we go through in life too. But I know that there's a lot of concern out there right now. And so, what Spirit has impressed upon me throughout the week in my different interactions with people is that the best that we can to try to not get pulled down in it too much, to be a space holder of light and positivity, and putting your loving, energetic arms and hearts, around the world and around each other, to try to sort of stay in that grounded space as best you can. Thank you. Numerology hour at 1 p.m. Pacific. Thank you, Kelly. So you can have lunch and then hop on over and see Kelly do her numerology reading. So perfect. Thank you, Kelly. All right. And so back to my little talk. So what Spirit was offering for us is that we don't have to get pulled down. And if we do, not to worry, just lift ourselves back up again, ask Spirit for a little bit of help, ask your friends for a little bit of help to get yourself back up into a positive mindset. We have been working on living our best lives this whole year. Just got a knock on the wall. So Spirit is giving us a little cheerleader right now to say, keep going, living your best lives. We are still allowed to be happy and feel joy. The sun is always going to shine every day. The flowers are still blooming. The birds are still flying. And so just keep remembering that and tuning into all of the happiness and beauty that does exist, because it far outnumbers the things that we're concerned about. It really, really does. And when we can hold that positive light, people need it right now. So it's a good choice to make if you can. So we can be the space holders, we can be the light holders too, and try our best. And again, if we find ourselves kind of spiraling down, let's just spiral ourselves back up again and just hold the love, I believe the word specifically that Spirit says is return to the love. So let's all keep returning to the love. We're all human. We're all going to have moments. We're all going to be triggered. We're all going to see things that we may not like, but return to the love. So that might be a positive affirmation or saying that you can say to yourself, maybe start your morning with it. Here I am waking up, return to love. Before you go to bed, let's return to love. And so just keep getting yourself back there. And over time, we start to develop more of that muscle, being able to maintain that for a longer period of time. And that is a very beautiful thing if we can do that. So I hope that's helpful for you. That's just a little bit I wanted to give you today. I'm just going to stop for a minute. I want to say hello to my girl, Debbie Romero, the soul sister. Thanks for being here, love. Courtney Lopez, good to see you too. Thank you for coming. So good to see you. Okay. And then Jess is here. Great. Beautiful. So thank you again for listening and for holding space for me and for each other. You are the most beautiful group, and you always are so loving and kind and bring in such beautiful energy. Hello, Julie, who's just joined us. Thank you for being here. Great to see you. Hi. Afternoon for you. Great. Okay, beautiful. And so with that, I am so excited to welcome my dear friend and colleague. She's a beautiful spiritualist medium, and she's very active in the community, has a background in psychology as well, and has a lot of experiences to share that we can all learn and grow from. So please let us bring in the beautiful Lima Bergmann.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me
Hi,
okay?
Lima. Yes, we can. We can hear you. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, we're excited. Can you see everybody in the comments there?
I do. Yeah.
Okay,
Hello.
beautiful. And Simon's just joined us as well. Thanks for being here too. So yeah, everyone's saying hello to you. So just to kind of get us, started in the flow, would you mind just telling us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I am a spiritualist medium, as you said, and I'm also, hi, Craig. I'm also, I spent the first 25 years of my career as a clinical psychologist. So, I worked in all different types of, environments. I've worked doing assessments in prisons, and I was the clinical director of a mental health facility, and private practice, group practice, family, family therapy, individual therapy. So all spectrums of it over the years. And then when I was around 50 or maybe like 51 or something, I learned that I was a medium. It's a very weird story, but I didn't believe it at first. I didn't think it was real. I didn't even know what was happening. And it took probably almost 2 years before I really realized I had to do something with it, that you don't just develop this and, or realize you have it, maybe I've always had it, but didn't realize it and not do something with it. So,
Right.
it was a process. It was wait a minute, I'm a psychologist. If I tell people that I'm a medium and I, talk to people on the other side, they're going to think I'm crazy. Right. So it was like a whole coming up, thing had to happen. And,
Yeah.
and I didn't really know, I kept them very separate. Like they were separate things that I did. But the more that I learned how to use mediumship, how to do it well, how to do it ethically and do it, I took it as seriously as getting my doctorate, training. And, in our circle of mediums, we've had great tutors. We've had wonderful people that we've learned from. And in the more that I did it, the more I realized, whoa, this is actually therapeutic. This is actually as healing as the work that I've done as a psychologist. These are not so different after all. And so it was in that realization, the more that I did it, that I realized I had like the peanut butter and chocolate of skill sets and blended them. And so now I don't practice traditional therapy anymore. I am now completely focused on people's soul journey and help. Instead of, the way I like to say it is, I don't try and fix the problems of the ego. I try and optimize the beauty of the soul. And it's a different approach. And I'm not saying that therapy is not useful. Traditional therapy isn't useful for certain things and certain conditions and populations, et cetera. Like, it's not about that. It's about my own evolution, my own desire to work with people who are just stuck in life, who are just dealing with the lack of self-love, the lack of being able to return to love, as you said. And why is that, right? And so it's just a whole different way of working with people now. And I love it.
Yeah. Oh, that is so, so beautiful, Lima. And you are right. It is a nice combination of, psychology and mediumship. And I know a lot of people who enter, hello, Gwendolyn. A lot of people who enter into the spiritual community tend to kind of like dabble in psychology because they're trying to take in a lot of information and understand themselves too. And I have seen a lot of people in that field, because of the work that you're doing is so important. Spirit is, of course, helping every psychologist to kind of know what to say and what approach to take with people. So I've seen other psychologists who all of a sudden realize they're mediums too, because they've been working intuitively for years,
Right.
and it's just been developing over time without them not realizing it, and then all of a sudden, bing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too. But I so love what you said, because, fixing kind of implies something's gone wrong versus
Right.
reminding you of the beauty that you are, and
Right.
so it's a shift in the mindset too
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
how to approach things. It reminds me a little bit like when I speak to empaths, and usually in the beginning, if I offer a class, in the beginning, they're very much about protecting themselves and being fearful of other
Right.
things around them, and wait,
Right.
there's a fundamental shift that happens by the end in realizing that sensitivity is a gift and you can use it for good. And it's like an extra superpower that you have. And we don't need to be fearful. We just need to be in our power and be in our love. And we can change the atmosphere versus fearing the atmosphere, if that makes sense. So your approach very much is alignment with that, of reminding people of their beauty and just helping them to get moving forward. So I love, love, love that. Girl after my own heart.
Yeah, it's
That's so
just that,
beautiful.
when you take away, the labels and the stigmas and the pain that people, feel by not being perfect or not having everything together, or feeling there's something wrong with them, and open it up to just, well, you're on a journey, and let's just see where you got stuck. Let's just see where there's been a detour that and let's get you back on your soul journey path, right? So it just takes a lot of that heaviness away, right? And it's also it's much more collaborative too. So as opposed to like going to a therapist where they really have the authority in the room, right? They are the all-knowing, let me help you fix this problem. It kind of removes that mysterious boundary, that boundary between therapist and client. And this work is just much more holistic and real between two souls. You know what I mean? So I love that about the difference in the work as well.
Yeah, it's like a partnership.
Yeah.
It's like it's a beautiful partnership. And it's like, it must be beautiful to be able to kind of like share in these journeys with other souls together, because you get to be a part of, seeing the transformation in them.
Right.
Too. And that
Right.
must be very like heart fulfilling for you as well, for your soul too.
Yeah. It's a oneness, it's a helping everybody else feel a oneness with each other. And like, we all have stories, we all have traumas, we all have things that we've been through and will continue. I think that's something that we think that if we get ourselves put together and we get through this problem that we're having, that then we're good to go for the rest of the journey. And it's like, no, we're going to still be challenged, because that's the whole point of being here, right? Is to, level up. And we level up by every time we face a challenge. How much easier is it getting to get through it? Because we've worked through, the stuff that we've been carrying forward that we didn't need to carry. And so when your load is lighter, you have more space for your soul to guide you. And that's really, being guided by your soul. I mean, that's my mission, is to help everyone live guided by their soul. Not everyone, obviously, but as many people as I can touch.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Real quick, I just want to say hi to Nancy, who's come on, and Katie has come on as well. So I just want to make sure I acknowledge everyone, and Miss Gwendolyn. Everybody's really happy to see you. Jess is saying, okay. Oh, you've really hid yourself away because you're so sensitive, but you've been doing a lot of growth of past couple of years. No more playing small. Sorry, I got mumbled on my words there, but good for you, Jess. Life is really short. And so like, it seems long while we're living it, but it is short. And so, how do we make the most of it and the best of it, of being, the truest to ourselves that we can be, and making the most out of the potential that we have, and it's like, so I know, as I'm guided by spirit, is to help remind people of their potential. And sometimes my mediumship work and my healing work, is also a vehicle for that, and that's a gift too, of just to kind of like plant those seeds, like, you're beautiful, you're perfect, you have everything in you. And it's just the remembering of the soul, so that's very, very lovely. So thank you for being you and doing this special work. I know one thing that everybody will find interesting here today is you have had, I think, 4 near-death experiences. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you've been through a lot of, I got the chills. You've been through a lot in your lifetime. And we all know that when we have, pretty intense experiences, and that's about as intense as you can get, they can't not change you. They can't not,
Right.
bring forth that, it's that which we cannot put into words, but that the
Right.
infinite force within you of connection to humanity and authenticity um, and appreciation for life and for time. I know that's
Right.
one thing we spoke about a while ago too. Anything you would like to share about like those experiences, or what you learned from them, or what you would want people to know that you got from going through that?
Sure. I think that just to give you just a little bit of, context so that you understand the transformation that they, afforded me, um, was that, I had a challenging upbringing, and, I say that with a grain of salt, because many of us have challenging backgrounds. So I'm I'm no different than a lot of people. But I ran away at 16. And I didn't have a typical family. I lived in like 19 different family constellations growing up. And by the time I ran away from home, I'd moved 25 times, and I'd been to 12 different schools. And so that should just that's the context for it. So I got married very young and had like 22, and had a baby, my first child, at 23. And at 25, I got run over by a big rig on the freeway. And so, I'm just driving along my merry little way, and a tractor trailer like jackknifed and literally drove across the freeway, and I slammed right underneath it, and then two cars hit me on each side. And that was really, first, let me just preface it by saying, with each one of my near-death experiences, I learned something very different. They were very profound in their own ways. And the way I work with people now, those 4 near-death experiences became the foundation of my work. And it's because it was in looking back, how we really learn our lessons by looking back and suddenly connecting the dots, right? Because it's too hard to see the lesson when we're in it, right? It's a little harder then. And that's why hard times, you have to remember there's something that's going to come of this that is going to mean something. And I'm just not able to look at what that is right now. So, so when I looked back and, I looked at these 4 experiences, I realized that it was getting hit by the truck, where I was realizing, as I was watching the scene below me from above, right? My spirit had already ascended, and I was watching the accident unfold, the rescue of people and myself. And I realized how bizarre it was that I was having thoughts that seemed very different from the thoughts that I'd had when I was pinned in the car. So I kind of had this double, I was in 2 places at once, is what it felt like. And I had the whole separation and the realization of, I'm not my thoughts. Who I am is not all those thoughts that have been in my head, that have been struggling to find, self-love, or struggling to find, what am I supposed to do in this life? Or, struggling to heal myself from all the childhood stuff I went through, and it was a completely different experience from above. I was so calm, and I was so accepting, and I was so fearless. And it was really beautiful to feel like, oh, this is me. This is me. That's not me. And all those thoughts, whoa, what a waste of time. What a waste of time that I've been putting myself through such torture, when everything is really just okay. Everything's going to be okay. Right. So it was that lesson, that was that first experience, without going into great detail, because we wouldn't have time for all that. But that was really the realization of my ego, right? Like, the thoughts that I'm thinking are not me. And then the second one happened just a few months after the accident. I had a traumatic brain injury, and I was in a lot of pain. It even hurt to breathe. And I was finally home, and I was taking some pain medication for the first time that the hospital had given me. And I'm very, very sensitive to medication. And I took one, and it was so strong that I cognitively just became like unaware of everything. And I forgot that I took it. So I took another one, and I kept doing it thinking, oh, I need to take the pill. And I took too many, and I overdosed myself unintentionally. And that experience was I want to say the most profound of all four, in that as I was leaving my body, I had the feeling of, oh, I'm going home now. Like I had, like, being in my body was like I was on some sort of vacation or something, but now it was time to go home. And then when the further I got, and you know, I want to say that in all four of my experiences, there was never a lights out. There was never of, oh, you're dead, there's darkness, and then you wake up and you're in heaven, you know, or whatever you choose to call where you're going. It was seamless. And I watched everything happening. I watched everything unfold, you know, in my rescues all four times. But I had the experience of being my soul self. And when I left my body this time, and I felt this feeling like, oh, I'm going home, what I realized was I was going home to me. I felt like I had been like this little spark of me when I looked down at my body, and that what I was returning to was all of me, was my higher self, was the part of the me that had been guiding that little spark. And I realized that I had never been alone. Like, loneliness was a big thing for me growing up. And it was at that moment that I realized, oh, I'm not alone. I'd been guided by my higher self the whole time. There was always a bigger me, right? And so it was an experience of realizing that I was a soul. And I don't even know that I knew what a soul was at that age. Like, I didn't grow up with religion. I mean, I had some religion, you know, Christianity, Catholicism, you know, I had a little bit of that at different parts of my life, different parts of my growing up. I did go to a Catholic high school, but I wasn't well versed in anything. And so I don't know that I even knew really what a soul was, but boy, I knew when I came back. When I came back from that experience, I was a completely different person. I was married, and I had a 15-month-old child. And I realized that I was in a situation that wasn't a fit for who I truly was. It was a fit for a person who was longing for family, longing for somebody to love them, longing for somebody to say, hey, you're cool, want to marry me? You know, like it was, let's start a family. Like, that was a desperation and need to be loved. And, you know, I realized that there was more for me after that, and this is not, you know, a disrespect to my ex-husband. There was nothing, I'm not disrespecting him in any way. It was a realization that this was not the marriage I was supposed to be in. And that happens, I've learned, to a lot of people who have near-death experiences, where they come back and they realize, whoa, what is this life I'm living, right? This is not me. So I did, I did divorce my husband eventually, and I went to college, and I decided I'm going to go to college. I was like 26 years old by then. I was like, I'm going to go to college, and I'm going to get a doctorate in psychology, and like all these lofty ideas that just made no sense for the person who I was before this experience. And I wanted to help people. I was on a mission at that point to help people. And psychology was the only avenue I knew of to do it, right? The only avenue I knew of to to help people, get over, things that I had to get over when I was a kid, and growing up. And, my passion was, child therapy and family therapy and stuff. So, so that was a huge, huge shift. And then many years later, I had remarried and had another child by the third experience. Oh, no, sorry, stepping ahead. I had remarried and I was having my second child. And I was overdosed by the morphine drip in the hospital. So again, it wasn't anything the hospital did wrong. It's just that my body's so sensitive. I've had other experiences with medication in the hospital, 'cause I've been in the hospital a lot, where I've stopped breathing, like if they've given me drugs or whatever. And so that one I did again. I had just had a crash C-section. And so they had put me on this, this morphine. And I remember at that one, that whole experience, we had the ego, we had the soul, and then we had love. And what I was experiencing was being wrapped in the wings of an angel and lifted above my body. And it was a love that I cannot to this day describe. I mean, the closest thing you could get to would be maternal love, right? That feeling of being in your mother's arms, which I didn't have a lot of growing up myself. So it was like a really, breathless experience to feel this level of love. And what I learned from that experience was I'd only scratched the surface of what love meant. And I had spent my whole life seeking love instead of realizing that it was in the giving of love that you feel the greatest love. It's in that giving and in that helping other people to feel love that you feel the greatest loved, that you feel the most loved. It was a complete shift. And so my husband was in the room, while they were resuscitating me. And I realized that I had not loved him the right way. I had loved him from a place of wanting to be loved and in a loving partnership, but I hadn't loved him in a way that was from the depths of my soul. And it was from that point forward that I realized that we are all love and that we all need to return to love, just as you said, right? And then the fourth one, I drowned in a swimming pool. And that experience was amazing because it was all about finding purpose, finding my purpose or understanding my purpose. And I remember in that experience, when I had sort of risen very far away from my body, the farthest I'd been in all four, I was like this translucent light, and I was amongst other translucent lights, other spirits, other souls. It was like literally being a star in a galaxy. And God, or whatever you choose to call it, was not just going through, it wasn't just the space between us. God actually went through us. So it was this realization of this being an individual and yet being one. We were all wrapped in the same godness, right? The same love of God, the same love of the higher spirit, or, infinite intelligence. We were all part of it. And so it was like this amazing oneness, but still feeling like I had the journey of my soul that was mine and mine only. And when I came back from that experience, I knew that there was something that was coming. There was something that I knew was coming. I didn't know what it was. And at the time, I was very invested in my role as a mother. My kids were in the entertainment industry. So I had the whole, audition, sitting on sets, like that whole thing going on. I homeschooled them. So I was very, very involved in that mission of raising my kids and supporting them and their careers and everything. But I knew that there was another calling coming for me, and I didn't know what it was. And as soon as my youngest daughter, went off to university, that's when I learned I was a medium. So it was like, oh, isn't that timing interesting, right?
Very good timing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was like, I don't think we need to seek our purpose as much as it is to allow ourselves to live by the guidance of our soul and accept whatever comes across our path, right? Understand, it's like respecting synchronicities as having meaning, right? Instead of just being coincidences. Like paying attention to the messages that we get from the spirit world and from our own higher self, right? Like learning to tune into that and go, oh, okay. And I know it did take me a while to believe it and to realize that it was real, but it was so far left field that I didn't know what to make of it at first. You know, it took spirit some work to get me to really listen at the time. So that's my story. If anybody has,
Thank you. Thank you for so much I know we were all like locked into that too. And yeah, I want to say hi to Iris and Allison, who's joined, and Lisa, who's joined as well. Thanks to everybody who's coming on. And again, if I don't say your name, it's because sometimes the comments don't all totally make it in as they're supposed to, because we stream on multiple pages, but no, I love you. So I loved hearing all of that. And this is what I'd love to bounce off of you a little bit too, is for me, like I haven't had a near-death experience, but what I would describe for myself would be a living near-death experience, because I had a health issue that really took me far across, kind of through the veil, if that makes sense. And for me, I was, experiencing what I would say was a much higher level of transformation accompanied with a health issue. So for me, it was severe anemia, and I just got so incrementally used to being kind of tired and lightheaded and things like that, that it took me a while before I finally got it checked. And I was, if it was getting any lower, like I would have been I was weeks away from being in trouble. But fortunately, of course, by the grace of God, I was guided to do this and this and this and catch it, and it was treatable. So that was good. But because I was in this transformation phase and, in this health, it was like the right combination to where I almost died, and I had been dying for a long time and I didn't know it. Now, the funny thing about this is because of the work I do, being across the veil over there, at least partially across the veil, does wonders, because I had access to, all kinds of information. I was just streaming consciousness and intelligence during this process too. I don't remember most of it. I didn't record it or things like that, but I was just streaming all of this. But the lessons that you learned, I connect with all of those, and I did have what I would say is either my higher self, God, guides, it doesn't matter what you call it. It's all the same oneness. It's all the higher intelligence, that every time I was experiencing thoughts, say an insecure thoughts, I would keep hearing, not you, not you, not you, and I was like, I was being taught kind of, so it was kind of like psychology. It was kind of like God was being my psychologist and saying, not you, not you, not you. And it took a while, but finally it kicked in. And I was also experiencing a lot of shifts in the multidimensional self of me. So the different parts of me, I was witnessing them. And then finally it just clicked in, not me. Not me. And I that's where I kind of got that same thing. Like I'm not, my personality is part of me, but it's ever changing and ever flowing, but it's not the core of me, which is that spark of the divine, is that which is looking, like reading the story, the eyeballs, and sometimes I'm still in the story, like I am the pages and the words. And then sometimes I can get back into, I prefer to stay the observer where you're just looking into the pages. It's much more pleasant, and I'm much more helpful for everybody if we can do that too. And, I can relate to the love, and to knowing that you're not alone, because we're never separate, we're never separate from our higher self. And so the loneliness is an experience that I think connects us to humanity. But it's an illusion too, because it's not real, because we are always connected to the higher self. So coming into that connectivity is very, very helpful. And that's why people like us who are in this field have been through a lot of transformation one way or another, we realize, like, you're never alone. You're never alone. And that doesn't mean we won't feel. We may go into another, spirit may say, okay, time for another dark night of the soul. If you feel a little bit alone
Right.
again.
Right.
Okay. Whatever reason we had to do that again. All right.
Right.
Yeah. And then the love thing is very interesting too, because when I first started, and I'm almost done, but when I first started taking my classes, I had that kind of experience. I was just out walking my dogs, and I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to know more about love, all the kinds of love. Like, I know I'm this, and I know I'm this, and I know I'm this, but there's so many more kinds of love, and I'm getting this. It was very much more of like, the higher self knocking on my door saying, we're taking you on this journey, but it just filtered through my perception as me feeling like I wanted to know more about it. But it was really the higher part of me saying, this is the journey we're going on. You're going to learn more about love.
Right.
And so it's been, no more love now, KMLN, something like that. The letters of the alphabet, they did it that way for me. And it was like, so every experience I got was, well, now you know more love. You know more love now. You know more love now, because it's all the different little it's never ending and infinite too. All the different ways that we can learn it. So, but yeah, that's why I was just bouncing off of you again. And I know my experience isn't exactly the same, but I can relate to all of it just because, and I think people, when they have significant health issues like that too, that kind of take them across to a certain space and have access to that as well.
Yeah. I don't have any interest in becoming an expert on near-death experiences, because I treasure my memories of mine so deeply, and the lessons that they taught me, that I almost have avoided reading a lot about other people's experiences, because I don't want it to infiltrate into my own, or to make me feel like, well, that didn't happen, and that didn't happen in my, like, I don't want any of that. I want to keep it like super pure and innocent and what it is for me. Right. So I want to make it clear that I am no expert in that, but I will say that I think something that I can say, without authority, but feel strongly about, is that you don't have to literally be dead to have a near-death experience. And having a situation where you are fearing for your life, you can have a near-death experience. Having a situation where you are sick for a prolonged period of time can give you a near-death experience. It's a connection to your spiritual self. It's a connection, and maybe you don't travel above your body, like maybe you do when you are literally, dying or dead, but you can still have what I think is a very fair thing to say as a near-death experience, because it's spiritual, it's profound, and it changes you, and it changes your whole outlook. Right. So,
wow.
You're
right. And I just got a flashback of, probably about 8 years ago. And I was like, I wish I could get that knowledge without actually having to die, because I would hear other people's stories. And then I just realized, I'm like, that's kind of what happened. Like, whoa, how weird is that? Like, I just had a little flashback. So, it reminds me too, I remember seeing, because, there's a lot of like spiritual documentaries out there on, Amazon Prime and stuff that you can find. And there was one where these ladies had gotten in a car accident, that they, when they, I can't remember if they had an NDE or if it was just the, the intense trauma of it. But when they came out of it, they had this experience of like basically nothing kind of bothering them, kind of like when you were out of your body in the first one too. I had a 24-hour experience of that many, many years ago. I was under really high stress, and just so for about 24 hours, I had no thoughts. All the mind chatter was gone. That's just a constant conscious stream of experience that's kind of happening. And I had no
Yeah.
thoughts. And then after about 24 hours, I could feel them starting to trickle in. And I
Right.
was like, oh, but I knew in that moment, like nothing, all of the extraneous stuff we worried about, none of it
Yeah.
mattered. It just didn't. All that
Right.
mattered was the love of the people who you're connected to, the
Yeah.
people that you love, that love you back. Like that was just all that mattered. It felt really good
Yeah,
to
it's
be
like
that.
a surrendering. I think there's that,
Yeah.
there's a surrendering to rise above what's happening. And, and I recommend that for everybody, as you said at the beginning of your talk, like this is a great opportunity over the next few months, with this whole election stuff going on. This is a great opportunity to practice rising above, right? So when you notice yourself getting triggered, that's a fear. That's a fear that's been unprocessed, of something that is in your programming, right? That is causing that trigger to create this fear in you. And then, we react, right? We react when we're triggered and we're in fear. It's our safety defense. But if you notice that you're reacting and you're noticing, and like you said, we're all human, right? Like I can tell you that I've had many a time where I've typed a little response on a Facebook thing and then deleted it, right? Because you have that reaction, but then you have to catch yourself. You start to learn going, oh, there's my ego. There's that mind chatter that is not me, right? And the way you do that is once you recognize it and you learn to recognize it, you then rise above it. You bring yourself above it and you look at the higher you can go above the problems that you're going through, the more you realize that it's not that they're insignificant or don't have meaning. It's that we create so much more trauma for ourselves in it through our reactions, that when we rise above it, we relax. And we become more connected to our soul. And we just go, okay, my favorite phrase when I'm triggered or whatever is like, okay, that just happened. Or, okay, this is happening.
Yeah.
And that to me, that's my phrase that snaps me out of my ego and helps my soul rise above the situation. And just say, okay, so let's see what, how this is going to unfold. What can I do? What am I capable of changing? And what am I capable of, what am I incapable of changing and that I have to accept, right? Like when you rise above it, all of a sudden everything becomes so much more clear. And it's in that you surrender. You surrender to what is, and you're less affected, by the things that trigger.
Yeah. That's really beautiful. And, ultimately, the sun is still going to shine every day. And it's like everything there, and we can trust that there is a plan, that there is a divine plan and a divine order of things too.
Right.
And even if we don't like what's happening, it doesn't mean that something good isn't going to come out of it, but it's like the waiting for
Right.
for that to happen. Yeah. Thank you for that. And it's not always easy. And, that's why I talk about self-care and things like that to keep our nervous system calm. Cause then it makes it
Right.
easier to rise above if we can do that. Cause the mind loves to protect the heart, so when the mind comes in, it will tell all kinds of stories that sound very logical and very believable. And but that can be very based on fear because it's in protective mode, because you're experiencing fear, and the mind makes you, you don't want to look stupid in front of people. You don't want to do this. And so that's why it kind of takes over and takes charge. And then you go, oh, what happened? So then kind of coming back into the heart and learning sort of how to integrate that. It takes practice. Like we're all learning it like day by day, getting it too.
Practice. Yeah, it does take practice. And I think that, that's such an important point because, people think that, oh, I'm just going to fix this problem and then everything's going to be great. And it's like, it takes practice to make a shift in being triggered by something, right? It's not just that you have awareness of it. It's that once you have awareness, it's like, I'll share just like a personal example that I think is really relevant. And I've shared this in my mentorship before, and Craig's been in my mentorship. But I think it's a great example because I can't think of any other way to explain it other than, if you have something that is very triggering, and you know that that thing exists. Okay. So I have a trigger around animals being hurt, being, here I live in a very nature filled environment. There's a lot of nature out there. And so, the circle of life happens in front of my eyes in ways that I wish I didn't live here. Okay. So, but when I see something or hear an animal being, taken, eaten, it's very triggering for me. And so this is just one example. Your trigger could be anything. But if we accept that we have those triggers, whatever your trigger is, okay, what happens is we then don't fear it happening again. And so part of the problem with people getting through triggers is that they are living in constant fear of something happening, right? And so when they see any chance, right? Like it maybe for me, it was just like seeing a bunny on the lawn. It's like, oh my God, it might get eaten, right? To getting to the point where, oh, bunnies on the lawn are beautiful, right? And now it's just, oh, bunny's getting swooped up by a hawk in front of my face. Now that's the trigger, right? So the window of being triggered, the intensity of being triggered gets smaller and smaller and smaller the more that you can accept that you can handle the trigger. And so what you said about taking care of yourself is so important, because if you have a means of knowing this could potentially happen and I know how to take care of myself when it does, you're not in fear of the trigger anymore. And then the window of time that self-care that's needed to move you through that reaction. So now if I see an animal getting hurt, or, like I ran over a snake once, oh man, it killed me, like that was so painful for me. But I know what to do. I have a self-care routine that I do. I have a breathing exercise I do. I'm very careful with the thoughts in my head. My husband knows how to respond to me. Like I have a plan of self-care and self-nurturing when I know that trigger could happen, right? And so I know I can handle my trigger. That's so huge. But you have to be able to, not get to a place where you don't fear it happening, because you can get through it, and because you have a method of self-care. And then that window just keeps shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And the triggers are signposts of where we need to do our personal development, right? That's what our triggers are. They're really our fears telling us, this is where you're stuck on your journey and you need to work on this, right? So they're very valuable.
Yeah, they really are. Thank you. Thank you for that. And it's, we get there's the cycles, the pain cycles, which is like the fight, flight, freeze, fawn of how we're used to, dealing with things. And sometimes those things are appropriate, and then sometimes they might not be. And that's where, just like taking a walk, doing the breathing, the meditating, and then just long-term care is very important, making sure you take care of your health, you're checking your hormones and your vitamins, all those things are good things to check, because you just never know if something health-wise could be affecting your body, which makes your nervous system in a state of anxiety, which makes it hard to handle life, so it's like, that's why self-care is so important. And I think the trouble, we have is when one pain cycle triggers another pain cycle, and everybody's fighting, freezing, running, and it's like trying to get out of that. And I know that we're all very sensitive here. Spiritual people are very sensitive. So I just got the thought from Spirit, and they've been giving you little knocks along the way as you've been talking too. I just got the thought that, we're trying so hard to be the best that we can be, but when you're sensitive, it might be easier for your nervous system to feel that overload. And then we need to do an extra good job of taking care of ourselves, but then not to beat ourselves up over, having that trigger, because we have to understand if we are sensitive, we may be more prone to that. So not to beat ourselves up, because sensitive people, we're all trying to be the best people that we can be, and, trying to go on the self-healing journey. We're all very active in self-healing and all of that too, wondering well, why is this still happening? And then some of that's also part of what we learn from it too. Right. And just the lessons gained also.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up a really important point I like to make, which is, you can do you can do meditation, you can do, whatever spiritual things that you've learned is, that are in your toolkit to help you feel more connected to your soul. But if you don't also work on the thoughts in your head and the beliefs that you have and the narratives that you carry about yourself, right? All of that ego stuff, right? You're only going to get so far with the spiritual stuff. You can only get as connected as you're willing to do that inner work and do that process of clearing out all the stuff that's sort of getting you stuck, on your journey.
Yeah. It reminds me of when I was in my dark night of the soul, pretty early into my development, because I went on the crash course. For me, it was a crash course of condensed experience of when I started developing, and I was in my dark night of the soul, and that's when you get this big, huge increase in negative thoughts, dark thoughts coming in, and the first reaction is to resist them and to try to fight them and kind of like be in that mode. And then for me, it got to the point where I remember I was just laying in bed and kind of almost in a fetal position. And then I just went into surrender mode, because I think that's when I had started having the separation, because I just like, fine, just let me have it. Just let me have it. Just let me have it. All right, fine. And that was also me starting to separate. But what was beautiful about that is then all of a sudden it shifted. It just switched like a light, just that.
The resistance melted. That's why, right? Yeah, the resistance melted. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just stopped. And I realized, oh my God, I'm going to cry. Y'all are going to see me cry on live. I realized that my experience, like, because all of the thoughts are typical of what we're all worried about. We're not good enough. We're not this enough. We're not that enough. It's like all of those fears and insecurities about being enough, about being lovable, about being worthy. That's what all of those dark stuff was, right? And when it switched, I realized that I was loved, but I had been so loving my whole life. And that far exceeded any mistakes I had ever made or times I hadn't done it right. Far, far, far exceeded that I had been loving and loving my whole life. And then I became aware that spirit held us in such a beautiful light of grace and saw us as absolutely perfect.
Yes.
Just absolutely perfect. They don't see anything else but the absolute perfection of us. They think we are the most beautiful, amazing, gorgeous, perfect beings, because we are, right? And I got to witness all that. And I had what I call the shine for a couple of weeks. That's when you come out of it and you're very shiny. Nothing bothers you for a long time. And eventually, eventually you have to be human again too, right?
Right.
It's like those people with the car accident. For a while, you realize what matters. You get very clear on what matters in life too. And then eventually you kind of go back into the storytelling and everything takes you back.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thoughts are not you. And so the negative ones too, it's like, we don't have to believe them. So I think that's the takeaway is we don't have to believe them.
Right.
They're not you,
right.
But they can teach you. They can be teachers of, kind of like the hard signposts, like you said, that there's some fears in there to be worked through, to be understood, that can help you be more confident in life too.
Right.
So,
right. Exactly.
Thank you. There was a question that I would love. Tracy was asking, is there a good way to connect with your higher self? Would you have?
It's there's so many ways that people there's so many ways people, like your answer could be totally different from my answer, right? It really is based on where you feel the most at peace within yourself. So if you like to meditate because that's where you feel most connected to your soul, then do that more often. If you like to daydream, do that more often, because daydreaming is really a way to connect with your higher self. If you like to imagine scenarios of yourself in the future, different scenarios of yourself, that's your soul. That's your soul speaking to you. Your imagination your curiosity, meditating, daydreaming, all the things that take you out of your head. So listening to music that touches you and moves your soul, that's a way to connect with your higher self. So it really depends on what speaks to your soul. Some people it's writing poetry. Some people it's taking a hot bath every night. Like they have to do that because that's where they feel connected to their soul. So I invite you to think outside the box and don't think just like, well, I have to meditate every day for 10 minutes, or I have to, go to the spiritual store and find all the books that tell me the right answer. I would love for you to just start exploring what takes you out of your head. What takes you out of your head. It may even be when you're at work and you're doing something and you lose track of time. What was it that you were doing? Because whenever you lose track of time, that's you in the flow, and your flow state is being guided by your soul. I hope that's
I love
helpful.
that. I know we do that when we're driving and when we're exercising and listening to music and daydreaming. That was beautiful too. And I might add just also that if you're feeling that desire to connect to your higher self, that might also be your higher self knocking on the door saying, hey, I'd like to get to know you more, because you are together already too, right? And so think of it that way too. And I know as mediums, we learn to sit in the power, which is just, expanding. If you just imagine, you have a light right here and just expanding that light out into the universe, and it all blends in, just kind of like pushing your aura out or pushing your energy out, however it makes sense to you and your mind too. And then just learning to sit in that and be okay with the thoughts in the background, because eventually they'll quiet down too. But that can give some space for the spirit to come in. But like you said, when you're listening to music and writing poetry, they come in and kind of like surf the wave with that too. So that's so beautiful. I could talk to you for hours, Lima. Oh my God. That's so beautiful. You've touched my heart and everybody's here in such a profound and significant way. You are a beautiful person, a beautiful light. You're very authentic, and so I just feel like I would just want to thank you for existing and for all of that you do for everybody and for all of us, and sharing what you've been through and what you've learned from it for all of us, because I can feel the little seeds being planted and the sparks of love reminding us too. And you are a beautiful love. So I just want to give you that from heart to heart.
Thank you. As are you. You do so much for the community of, people who are looking to connect to their soul, and you are so selfless in everything that you do. You and Kelly and Debbie too. You have wonderful a program here to really help people, and it's such a beautiful thing to see.
Thank you, Lima. Thank you. And Gwendolyn said it perfectly. Love and grace. That is what you embody. Love and grace.
Thank you.
I am looking at the time and realizing we have to wrap it up. But I know that Kelly has put all of your information in the chat box for everybody, and it's linked into the events as well. And is there any just last minute words you would like to leave with us to cap off?
So if you're interested in any of my work, you can just go to my website and sign up for my newsletter, because I put out a Sunday newsletter, and that would just be limabergmann.com/VIP, and you'll get taken straight to the newsletter sign up. But I wanted to there was one, whoops, I just lost my screen. There was one, I can't scroll through the chat. Or can I?
I think
I can. There was one comment here that I wanted to just touch on, and I'll leave you with that. Danielle said, people target those who wear their heart on their sleeve. So when I read that, I feel that I feel two things when I read that statement. And so I'm leaving you with this because of, where we're headed in the next few months, right? So I want to just touch on this. People target those who wear their heart on their sleeve. One way of reading that is people are fearful of other people who embody what they feel they don't have, right? So people attack other people who sort of threaten their own existence, right? That the somebody being happy or somebody being loving or somebody seemingly having their stuff together, right? Whatever that means. It amplifies somebody's lack of confidence or lack of feeling good enough in themselves, right? And so they feel the need to attack it in a defensive way. But the other way of reading that is people target those who wear their heart on their sleeve. Could be that people are drawn to people who wear their heart on their sleeve. People are coming into the vortex of people who wear their heart on their sleeve. And maybe they're not attacking, maybe they're not understanding, and they want to learn more. Maybe their need to attack is their need to call out for attention in order for that person who has their heart on their sleeve to gently say, oh, I see you're injured and you're wanting to learn more about what it looks like to live wearing your heart on your sleeve, right? So there's always two ways of approaching somebody who is, quote, attacking, one with sadness and compassion, right? And leaving it at that, or one is with, how can I help you? How can I open my arms to allowing you to see your own love? So those are two things that maybe we keep in mind, over the next few months that may be challenging for us as a nation.
Yeah, and find your tribe, because if you're a heart on your sleeve or rose-colored glasses, feel the good feels, then you're our people. So
Yeah.
you are our people. So we're here for you. I also want to give some love. Jennifer McCormick, she had said that she had an ND back in 2004. And it's helped her. The intuition has helped her with her son's disabilities and health complications and keeping her protected during COVID. And then losing her dad just weeks after. So the NDE has given her the strength to move through those challenging times too. So much love to you, Jennifer, too. You're an inspiration for all of us, and we love you. So I want to thank everybody here for joining and for all of your beautiful comments. Hope, faith, and trust.
Yeah.
Amen to that. I am that I am, and amen to that as well. That's the beauty of transformation, because it is not easy, to say the very least. It is very challenging. It'll put you in the lowest of the low, and then you realize I am that I am. So that's there's always a gift at the end. It's like giving birth to a baby. You forget how much it hurt after a while, but you get the baby out of it, and you get all of that beautiful love too. So that is the gift. So please, everybody, have a beautiful lunch, and then come back on at 1 for the numerology hour. That's just a little over half an hour away. I want to thank you all for your love and for holding space for Lima and myself and for each other, for all the beautiful energy that you always bring. And may this beautiful love that we've created be infinitely multiplied, spread across the world. So every form of consciousness, every being can feel this love and can feel a sense of peace and grace and rising above, so that we can all be holding space for each other and returning to love. Let's give peace to all of the conflicts, both large and small. There we go. Beautiful. Thanks, everybody, so much. Have a beautiful weekend. Hope to see you tomorrow or Sunday if you're able to make it. And we will be back next Friday on Embracing Infinity. Take good care. Much love to everybody. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much, Lima.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you so much.